Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from SimpleProgrammer.com, and today I want to talk a little bit about that marathon that I ran. If you haven't seen the video, I ran a full marathon, the San Diego full marathon. It was my first full marathon, and I know I already did a video on this and you already seen the highlights from the race, but I wanted to talk a little bit more now that it's been a couple of days and my mind is back and working and my body's back and working. But I want to talk a little bit about just what I learned from going through that process of preparing for the marathon, and just what I learned from just going from someone who didn't even think that they could possibly run 6 miles to someone who finished 26.2 miles, and just what that meant to me, because I think there's a lot in there, a lot to unpack, and it just goes to show you just how how your perceptions can change over time. So first of all, yes, it's been a couple of days now. I actually finished the marathon, and then right afterwards, I got my nice cool little jacket from there, which was cool, finisher jacket, and I got my my marathon medal here, which is pretty neat, pretty cool to have. And then, but right after the marathon, what I actually did. Some of you are going to be a little bit shocked, but I went home and I did my leg workout. So I went to the gym. I went home. I ate something after the full marathon. But afterwards, I took maybe an hour or two break, and then I went to the gym to lift legs because I had skipped leg day that week because of the marathon. I didn't want to have sore legs coming into the marathon, but I didn't want to miss out on my leg workout. So I'm telling you, there's no excuse for skipping leg day. You guys that think that you can skip leg day, I didn't even skip leg day after running 26.2 miles. So. No, I took it a little bit easy. It was maybe an hour and 20-minute workout, and I didn't go quite as heavy. But I did it for a couple of reasons. One, just because I really didn't want to skip leg day that week, and two, I wanted to mentally, prepare myself. I wanted to not let myself off the hook. I've done some videos on not letting yourself off the hook, and even though running 26.2 miles is probably a good reason to let yourself off the hook, I'd rather make myself tougher and have myself go through it. And then I also felt a little bit better when I ate some pasta for dinner, because I felt like that it was going to the muscles instead of just, even though I had burned, my Strava said that I burned, I think, 9,000 calories that day. I did a little bit of walking downtown. I ended up hitting 60,000 steps and getting a badge on my Why Things scale. It's got a badge for 60,000 steps, so that was pretty cool. So anyway, though, what I really want to talk about is just this whole process and what this has meant to me, what has happened mentally that has changed me, and how this really affects you, how your mindset right now. I've talked about this a few times. You've probably got some limiting beliefs that make you think that you can't do something that you can do, right? So for the longest time, if you've ever listened to my Get Up and Code podcast, you can check out the link here. It's now defunct. I stopped doing the podcast, and I took down the site, actually, even though you can still get the archived episodes, mostly because so much has changed in my mindset, in what I think about fitness, and I didn't want to, it's different. It's a different me now, and a lot of my fitness stuff comes out on this YouTube channel. As I'm constantly evolving it's kind of scary how much that things have changed. I've always had some success with what I've been doing, but I'm having a lot more success. I've been able to cut down my body fat lower than ever and gain a bunch of muscle, right? I mean, I'm more buff and less body fat than I've ever been. Plus, instead of running 3 miles, I can run 26 miles. So that's pretty crazy. So a lot of things change, right? So what is the fundamental thing? What did I learn? What can I show you from this? So we'll go back, right? Like I said, when I was doing the Get Up and Code podcast, I've been running now pretty consistently for about 10 years, okay? Now, when I started running, what I did was I started with a program called Couch to 5K, which is basically a walk and then run, and you get up to 5K, 3.1 miles. And I did that, and I got to 3.1 miles, and I was doing 3.1 miles 3 times a week pretty religiously, all right? I hardly ever missed a day, always made up for days, and I did that for for a good 3 or 4 years, 5 years, before changing that. Maybe it was 6 years. It's been a while. It's been a long, long time. Let me put it that way. And I never got better, and I never improved. I hated running. Always thought that I was not a runner and that I just couldn't do it. And then I had these myths in my head, right? I had these justifications. I said, okay, I can't run because I can't run more than 3 miles because cardio will kill your gains, man. It'll kill your gains. If you run long distance, you'll look like a long distance runner, right? Which is kind of funny now, but that's what I thought, right? Or that's what I convinced myself of. And I convinced myself it was hard. And so I'd go and I'd do these runs, and it felt really difficult, right? It felt difficult for me to run 9 miles a week. It felt difficult to run a 3-mile run and to run for about a little bit over half an hour. And I was exhausted afterwards. I was dreading it, right? It seemed like it was taking up so much of my time way back then, right? And then there was this breakthrough moment that I had in one of the episodes of Get Up and Code, where I started running and I shattered my limiting beliefs, because I said, if I can actually record an episode of this podcast, actually you can listen to that episode of the podcast, I think it was episode 80, while I'm running, I can keep on running. And I think I ran like 8 or 9 miles that day. And then shortly after, I ended up running 13 miles, right? And then I started changing my routine to run 6 miles 3 times a week. So about an hour. And that seemed hard. That seemed crazy. It seemed difficult, right? But then the real changes happened about a year ago, okay? Maybe a little bit over a year ago, when I moved to San Diego. And so many things changed in my life. My mindset changed in so many ways. But a lot of things changed in my mind. A lot of things changed mentally for me that opened up a lot of pathways that made it so that a lot of my limiting beliefs that I was still holding on to, even after I was running the 6 miles, became shattered. And I started to realize that there was a lot more that I could do with my life, that I was holding myself back in a lot of ways. And so I started running, actually, when I moved here to San Diego, and I started running more like 6, 7, 8, 9 miles. I signed up for a half marathon last year, the San Diego half marathon, the day before it started, just on a whim, just because I said, hey, this will be cool, I think I can do this. And I had been running maybe like 8 or 9 miles up until that point. And so I did it, and I ran 13 miles, and I think I got a time of 2 hours and 2 minutes, which I was pretty happy about. And then since then, I've been running half marathons. You can see all the medals as I've been running these half marathons. And I never thought I'd be able to get up to the distance of being able to run a full marathon. And here I am, right? I did that. So it's just so mind-blowing to me, just how now my normal running schedule right now is about 40 miles a week, right? So I ran I did the marathon on Sunday, and then on Tuesday I ran 5 miles in the morning and 5 miles in the evening. I'm going to run 10 miles tomorrow. I basically run 10 miles 4 times a week. And I'm not losing my gains. I'm not losing my gains, right? Just doing all that cardio. I'm only eating one meal a day, right? So many things have changed, so many misconceptions. But it's just crazy to me to think that I was struggling. I was having a difficult time with running 3 miles 3 times a week, and I wasn't even eating 1 meal a day. I wasn't even fasting like I am now, right? And the kind of extreme stuff that I'm doing now is just the routine. And so, my whole point in this, right, it's not to brag here, right, although I'm pretty damn happy with what I did, right, but it's not to brag, it's to say this, it's simply to say this, is that wherever you're at, right, and this is something that I've learned, is whatever you think that is your limit, or what is hard for you now, it's only because you think it's so, right? It's only your mindset, your belief, right? I mean, the thing is, it's just as difficult. It's easier now, I'd say, for me to run 40 miles a week than it was for me to run 9 when I was way back then, right? It's easy for me to eat 1 meal a day and to fast because I'm used to it, because I built up I don't want to say my tolerance, but to some degree it's my tolerance. It's because I became better. It's because I transformed, because my mind transformed, my body transformed. All of these things changed, my mindset, my beliefs, my views changed, and I started accepting a different standard. I moved my standard up and said, now this is the standard that I have, and because this is the standard, right, this is how my brain says, hey, okay, fine, if that's what we're doing, that's what we're doing, right? When you're marching, when you're doing 26-mile run, when you're doing a full marathon, if you tell your brain you are doing this, right, not that you don't have to train, obviously you have to train, You can't just, be untrained and do that. Although I think I have heard of some people doing such feats. It probably would be really harmful to you physically, but when you tell your brain you're going to do something, you do it. So my whole point in this is, like I said, is just this. Wherever you're at right now, okay, wherever you're at in your life that you think is hard, right, just realize that it's not hard, right? What I mean by that is realize that you are going to get to a point, or you can get to a point, you can get past those barriers, right? If I kept it, for the longest time, and this is why I'm saying this, is for the longest time, I had in my head that I could not run a marathon, that it was crazy even to run 13 miles, forget 26 miles, forget 26.2 miles. That's insane. Who could ever do that? I certainly can't do that. I have a hard time running 3. And I had that in my head for years, for 9 years, if you think about it, right? It took that long that I was running, and I was probably running just the 3 miles for a good 7 years, okay? And I never got better, and I never improved. I was waiting for it to get easier. For 7 years, think about that. For 7 years, I was running and doing it, and I was putting in the time, and I was putting in the work, but I was waiting for it to get easier. And did it ever get easier? No. In fact, it got harder. Okay, but then what happened? What changed? I made a decision. I said, fuck it. I don't care if it's hard. I'm gonna fucking run more. I'm gonna go further. I'm gonna go 6 miles, and then it was 9 miles, and then it was 13 miles, and then it was 26.2 miles, right? So that was the thing, is if you're waiting for things to get easier, if you're waiting for your life to get easier, if you're waiting for the moment when you don't have fear anymore, it's not going to happen. You could be waiting forever, right? You can be faithfully waiting and consistently doing what you think you're supposed to do, but you have to raise the bar. You have to set a new standard. You have to decide this is what you're going to take, or what you're not going to take anymore, and this is the new standard that you're going to live your life by. So right now, wherever you're at, or if you're not happy with where you're at, go set a new fucking standard. Decide right now that you are not going to tolerate this shit. Decide right now that you're not going to let yourself be ruled by this, and that you're not going to wait anymore, because it's not going to get easier. You have to get better. That's what I learned. That's what I figured out from all of this, from this running, from doing this marathon, is that I had to get better. I had to force myself to get better, and the only way to get there was through pain. The only way to get there was through determination. The only way to get there was through deciding that I had to do it, and then doing it. It never gets easier. All right, that's all I got for you today. Hopefully you found that a little bit inspiring. Hopefully that helped you. If you're struggling, if you feel like you're stuck, I would always appreciate it, of course, if you click that subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed, because I would love to share more inspiration with you and help you in any way that I can. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.